Now, for those of you who did watch the FA Cup tie on Wednesday, you'll notice that Roy Keane and Gary Neville had a little discussion about Declan Rice. Of course, their comments have enraged West Ham United fans, including myself. I wouldn't say that I was necessarily enraged by them, but I have a bone to pick with the pair of them. They have said that Rice has, in their words, a lot to do to become a world-class midfielder. We know of Rice's capabilities already. We know that he is a fantastic player. And for those who watch West Ham on a regular basis, you'll know exactly what Declan Rice can do. He is a real driving force in that team. Consistently good performer. And his passing and vision make him a very good modern defensive midfielder. According to Roy Keane, this was not the case. He said that if Declan Rice can't assist and score, then he needs to become a more combative player. In his words, a destroyer. Let me react to the comments they made. Gary Neville himself said this: I love Declan Rice, but I've said this a long time. When we do Monday Night Football, we have a tactical camera. I feel Declan knows the position, but when I look at world-class holding midfielders, he doesn't score or assist. You then have to be a destroyer and know the subtleties of getting on the ball from the back four. Well, off the ball, Declan Rice can go into a back four, so first and foremost, that's something I'd like to point out. He doesn't score or assist. Well, most midfielders in that role don't either. Let me put that out there. Most midfielders in that role don't either, Gary. You know, you look at players like Rodri and Casemiro, whom he mentioned as well, and we'll talk about them as players in a moment. He's not really a holding midfielder. And I don't think Rice would really want to go back into a holding midfield role. It's not him. West Ham likes to advance with the ball with its midfield. We don't have players that stay back and just keep the ball and retain possession. Rice certainly doesn't do that. He moves. Neville further said, and I quote, he needs to work under a new setup. He needs to play at a new club. For me, I won't be spending between 100 and 200 million if I were United. I'd spend 50 or 60 million. I feel that in that position, he has a lot of growth. For a holding player, it feels there's a cap of £65 million. It doesn't feel like a £100 million position. You'd have to get someone who scores 10 or 15 goals and gets lots of assists. The market gets destroyed each year in this position. For me, if Declan can go to a bigger club, that would be great. And the thing is, when he goes to a bigger club eventually, he's going to be under even more pressure to perform. He's going to face even more scrutiny from people like Gary and Roy. He needs to work under a new setup. Well, I imagine he would under another manager. I wouldn't be spending 100 and 200 million if I were United. Well, if Enzo Fernandez is worth 120 million pounds, then bloody hell, Declan Rice is worth 150 million or 200 million. Because I don't know how Chelsea justified that, but that's another argument. 50 or 60 million, way too cheap. We're not going to sell him for that cheap. Man, 50 million is how much we paid for Lucas Piqué. And we could probably sign about 3 good players, or maybe even 2 good players for that kind of money. So, 65 million as well for Declan Rice. Are you mad? He doesn't score enough because that's not his role in the team. He hasn't been assisting as much this season. West Ham used to assist because of crossing through Sofal and Cresswell. This time we need to play more down the middle. Again, this doesn't aid the argument. He's a brilliant lad, but he's got lots of growth to do to get to a level of Casemiro and Rodri, who are playing tops of their games. Casemiro has 2 league goals. Rodri has 2 league goals. Rice has 2 league goals. He's even on that par, isn't he, really? Okay, Casemiro, I think, is fantastic. Rodri, I think, is fantastic. Okay. Declan Rice is one of the best defensive midfielders in the Premier League. Why are they not saying this about him? No. Agenda. Again. He hasn't been great and hasn't kicked on, according to Roy Keane. Keane said this, Quote, he's got to focus on doing well for West Ham. I don't think he's been great this season. He's not really kicked on for all the talk about him and all the PR coming out of West Ham about him. He used to do a lot more. He doesn't score enough and he doesn't get enough assists. Even Ian Wright, who was next to these guys, disagreed. Thank you, Ian, a former West Ham player. Keane hit back and responded, you disagree? Well, that's good. I hope you disagree with me, because I know what I'm talking about. I played in midfield, yeah, and you're a completely different player to him. 20 years ago, the game was different. It wasn't really as technical as it is today. It was starting to emerge as a little bit more fast-paced, but it wasn't really technical. Defensive midfielders tended to stay back and just be defensive without any real progression. As far as I remember, with Roy Keane, he was more of a tough tackling, hot-headed midfielder. Declan Rice does not have the physicality nor that kind of temperament. And yeah, okay, fair enough, he did play in midfield, Roy, but yeah, didn't play the role that Declan Rice does these days. He's a modern defensive mid. You're an outdated one, in all respect to you. He hasn't been great this season. Well, most of the team hasn't, in all fairness. And we do have the players, but just not the form. It's not just about him. He's a cornerstone of the team, but he's not carrying the team. He doesn't score enough goals, and we don't expect him to, like I said. And he doesn't get enough assists, but we don't really expect it. I've just said the reasons why we don't. Because we used to crossing balls in for players to head. Even Graham Souness, so blooming it's like the four horsemen of the gobbiness, isn't it? This. We now got Graham Souness chirping in. Oh, jeez, what's he got to say? He doesn't score enough goals and he's not terribly creative, Souness said in his column on Sports Mail. Okay, fair enough, you say what you want. He influences games by preventing West Ham conceding, not because of the creative pictures he has in his head as he plays. Well, yeah, he intercepts balls and he breaks up plays. I guess I agree with that in a way. His numbers, 7 goals and 10 assists in 188 Premier League games, tells us a lot. That's all right by me. That's fine by me. I'm not panicking. For the centre-halves he plays in front of, he will be fantastic because he's preventing that dangerous killer ball played into the striker or strikers, which he does. He's good at intercepting. Okay, in that sense, he's a 10 out of 10. But ultimately, I think he might be a centre-half. He doesn't play as a centre-half. He's not a centre-half. I don't think Declan Rice has even played in the centre-back role for years. It's been suggested he could do it in the past, but I don't think he could, to be honest. Ian Wright had every right to be shocked about this. Those comments. It's unfair to compare him to Casemiro and Rodri because they're different players. Casemiro's a world-class defensive midfielder, who's one of the best defensive mids of his generation and maybe even of all time. Rodri and Casemiro have both won silverware. Rice is yet to hit that stride, but he's 24 years old and he can still do it. He will end up playing at a new club because he deserves to, not because he needs to. He has nothing really to prove to us, but he might need to prove something to, say, City or United or a bigger club like that. Roy's claim that he's worth 60 million is wrong because you look at other players who played in that position who've been overspent on. £100 million position. Well, we want to make a lot of profit off of him. So that's why we probably charge that much. Scoring 10 goals. He won't score 10 goals. He's not like what Souček did in that one season. And in anything, they both go forward together. But they're like, one provides the barrier for the other when they go forward. He's still growing. He's still a young guy. So obviously he's still got a lot to do. Roy Keane's comments are just very annoying, really. They're just very disagreeable. He said that thing about you praise the postman for just delivering mail. What, you bet you praise Declan Rice when he does something good, but in your head you're doing it, but vocally you don't. Isn't that right, Roy? I know you played in midfield, Keno, but still, it's not the point. You didn't play the same role as Declan Rice does. I do despair in a way, actually. I do despair. People will only appreciate and realise how good he is once they see him play for a club like Man City. But then again, the pressure will really be on Declan Rice to perform even better. These pundits will continue to get on at him like this. And if you've got people getting on his back like this, then he's not going to be truly adored, is he? Only time will tell. Because it's going to take a big move for him to finally get the respect. And that's the sad part of it. Just because he plays for West Ham, it's one reason why pundits like Keane and Neville probably don't show him the gratitude. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you like it, give it a thumbs up, sub for more content. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you all soon.